Hello and welcome to LovenStamps. I am Meg and you are in the LovenStamps studio with me today. The project I have to share with you is wow on top. It's so beautiful. I'm really excited about how it turned out, and I'm going to share with you some really cool techniques. This is a super technique heavy video, so I hope you're ready for just jumping in and going for it. This is something that I highly encourage you to try. You probably have a lot of these tools anyway, and so it's a really cool opportunity to put them to use in a way that you maybe haven't tried before. So don't be afraid of it. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. But we're going to use a couple of stamps that are featured on the annual stamp sale. This happens once a year, and it is 15% off all the annual catalog stamps. So all of the ones from this book here, and I did find the perfect greeting to go with our stamp today, and it's also from the book, so you're gonna be excited about that. Hey Joan, hey Rita. Okay, so Watercolor World is a really amazing, beautiful watercolor stamp with an effect. So it's a normal stamp, it's a red rubber cling stamp, but it has a really cool effect of watercolor, and we're gonna make it multicolor beautiful, and then we're gonna layer over it with our big thank you, which is called Thanking You. Both of these are really nicely sized for a large card and to cover up the full front of something. So with that, we have a whole mess of ink pads here to use. And we have our whole collection of blending brushes that we're gonna put to work. And we have Versamark, we have Wow embossing powders, all the good things. The supplies are in the link that is part of the video description here, or commented on the YouTube video if you're watching there, or Facebook video if you're watching there. And with that, I think we better get started. So you guys are gonna love this one. I am quite certain. All right, so we're gonna start with our stamp here, and let me grab my cardstock. I'm gonna go ahead and start with a piece of basic white cardstock. Hey, Nikki. So this cardstock is a lot larger than we're gonna need in the end, but there's a reason for that, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I wanna make my life easy. I know you guys are up for that usually. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna set this here when we get ready to stamp, but let's go ahead and ink up our stamp first. So this is a really big one. You can use one of the big blocks. Sometimes this would be a little trickier to do, but sometimes when I have a really large stamp, I'll just leave it in the box and then press my cardstock down on it. So you could do this technique that way too, but I think it's gonna be a little easier for us here. Hey, Alice, Sue, Terry, good to see everybody. A little easier to use with a block here. All right, so let's get started. We're gonna go from the, let's see, west to the east. So I'm gonna start here with Poppy Parade, and I'm gonna ink this up with my blending brush. Remember, swirl on and then tap onto your stamp onto your tap. It's a stamp. So we're using our next one here. We're gonna do pumpkin pie, and the colors for this are also all listed in that supply link. So if you're kind of wondering what they are, you can check those out there. Next one is crushed curry. I actually did this first time around with the yellow, I can't remember, with Daffodil Delight. And I found it was really pretty, but not quite as strong as I wanted. So I went ahead and used crushed curry because it's such a more intense yellow. Next we have lemon lime twist. And I'm going to use a new blending brush for this one too. I kind of keep one blending brush for each color. So since we're using all of these different colors here, I'm switching blending brushes a lot. But you can also sort of run them out on your cardstock and go on to the next color with some of them. Let's see, Coastal Cabana is next. And we have this one. And I'm just moving across. Now you'll see sometimes you're gonna get a harsh line. You see that harsh line right there? We really want to avoid that. Hey Dorothy, hey Tanya. Yeah, it's a big sentiment. So what I'm gonna do when I get that is I'm gonna go back and just blend a little bit more by tapping sort of between those areas to just smooth the intersection between the 2 points. Let's see, we're gonna need that one again. Then we have Azure Afternoon. And when I first pulled this one out, it's not a pad I use a ton. So when I started to tap on my stamp the first time, I realized it's really, really inky. So I wanted to go back and soften it just a little bit. And if you find that you end up with just a little too much color on your stamp for one color versus another, you can go ahead and brush off your brush and then pick up ink from the stamp itself with your blending brush just to smooth out those color lines. So this one's gonna come in handy again too. Oh, there's an inky finger. Okay, we have a lot of things going on here, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a second to just clean some of that off. There we go. And then finally we have Berry Burst, and this is gonna cover the last part of our image here. All right, so same, I'm getting a little bit of like a harsh transition between those two colors, so I'm just gonna tap right at that intersection to blend that out. Okay. All right, so now we have our whole stamp done. Hey, Kim. Hey, Margie. All right. Yes, Kim said, thinking of people in the path of Milton. I am just, heartbroken watching all of those. I can't imagine the stress. And then for our friends who were recovering or still recovering from Helene. Oh, such a mess. Speaking of which, okay, so this is my little pause here for that. If you have a second to send a card or a set of cards to an organization that's doing relief in that area, I know that just a little bit of like a card tucked into a sack lunch or something like that can really make a difference in someone's day. So definitely please use your stamping joy to share what you can with people. And my understanding is that Walmart gift cards, for my friends in that area, Walmart gift cards are a good option if you want to send something along with them. So, okay, back to our stamping. We're gonna go ahead and line this up. Now, this is the part where you really can make your life a lot easier. We're gonna overstamp this with Versamark, okay? So, in order to make that easy, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line up the corner of my block here with the corner of our cardstock, okay? See how this works? So now I have like a map, no pun intended, a guide here to know where our image is gonna go when we stamp it again, okay? So here is that really, really, really pretty image. Oh, my camera is getting all yellowy. And here's our stamp. Now, this is the important part. You need to clean this off really well because you want to preserve your Versamark pad. And we are going to make sure we get as much ink off of here as possible. Now, your chamois is like an ink magnet. It is really an outstanding tool. You want to make sure that you press it down into all the cracks and along all the edges of your stamp here to get as much ink off as possible. And wiping across doesn't necessarily help that much more. It's really, I find that pressing down into those cracks is what really helps to get it cleaned off. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And now we're gonna take our Versamark. So I'm not sure how much you're gonna be able to tell the difference, but I promise it's gonna be pretty amazing. So we'll see here. And now you're sitting there going, if this was photopolymer, that would be a lot easier. True, but remember we made a guide for ourselves. We lined up our cardstock here. It doesn't have to line up on the grid paper, but I find that putting it on the grid paper helps to further anchor what I am trying to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and line this up again. Now it's not gonna matter if it's not 100 exact percent. Close is good enough for this purpose. So, and you'll see what I mean when we get there. All right, so now I've stamped my Versamark and I can't tell how good it is yet. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our embossing tray and our Wow embossing powder. So these come in two sets. There's the Wow Basics, which is white, clear, and black. And there's the Wow Metallics, which is silver, gold, and copper. So we're gonna get to those. But if you haven't embossed before, done heat embossing before, it's a really, really fun technique and has really cool effects. The first thing you do is you stamp with kind of a sticky ink, like Versamark. The second thing you do is dump the powder on and then remove the excess. Oh, I think we did a pretty good job lining it up. And then the third thing you do is heat this. Now, When you heat it, you're gonna use your heat tool, and I've got mine handy here. You want to put your powder away, so you can open up this and dump it back in the bottle, or you could just set it aside for a few minutes. I'll get back to it later. But do not turn your heat tool on because it blows hot air. Do not turn your heat tool on when you have your powder right in front of you. Many stampers over the ages and across the world can tell you why that is true. So it takes a second for your heat tool to heat up. Usually my camera cuts out the background noise of the camera pretty well, or background noise of the tool pretty well. So hopefully it's not super annoying to you guys, but you're just gonna move your tool around and watch. Usually I tilt it so that I can see what's melting. You'll get a great reflection from the light. And basically my strategy is to concentrate my heat tool. I know sometimes people kind of do this, but really what you want to do is heat the paper, and the more heat you put on it, the faster it'll go. So I'm not super convinced that moving it around makes a big difference. My strategy is to point and kind of stay until things are completely melted. So, but whatever works for you, of course, you should stick with. All right, so this looks pretty well done to me. The embossing powder should be pretty instantly cool to the touch, so I can just run across and make sure that that is all heat embossed. Can you guys see the shine on it there? Oh, there, I think you can kind of see. All right, it really brings out the colors and it makes it extra pretty and shiny. Now, we're gonna do a couple more things to this. So this is our first wow, our ombre embossed. The next thing we're gonna do is take our thank you image here, and we're gonna stamp thank you over this. And the stamp that I've got for the inside of our card is really pretty perfect. You guys are gonna love it. So now I'm going to take this and we're going to stamp across here. There we go. And make sure that this is all down. Okay. Now, oh, it'll show more on this one. But also included in the embossing tools. Let's see. I'm not going to clean out my tray right now, so I'll just use a piece of scrap paper. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop the copper across here, and you guys will really be able to see very well how this works. So don't be afraid about using too much. You're going to dump the extra back in anyway. And the extra powder should just flick right off of there. Now, if you get these tiny little strays here, the embossing toolkit has a nice white stiff brush that you can use to just brush away any of the extras. And I didn't use it on this project, but there's also an embossing buddy, which you can use to basically cover up all of the little pieces on the cardstock that want to grab color or grab the powder, and pre-coat those basically so they don't cause a problem for your embossing powder. You don't get little flecks everywhere. Since we did clear embossing first, it doesn't really matter quite as much. The clear powder really kind of is like our pre-embossing. All right, remember to always point the heat tool away from your finger. This thing is super hot. The first one I ever got from Stampin' Up! Came with directions for stripping paint. So we're talking like paint stripper hot, not hair dryer hot here. So be careful with it. And there's actually a tool here that also comes in the embossing kit. If you're embossing tiny things, this is easier because I have so much real estate to hold on to with our big cardstock layer. Here, you see that all transforming. But there's actually a little bit of a reverse tweezers here that you can use to hold your paper, and they have like a Teflon tip, so they're not going to melt or anything. Okay. Marianne asked, do you use just one blending brush for all your blues or one for each color? You know what? Today I actually did use one for each color. But usually I use one for all the blues and so forth, one for all the reds and pinks and so forth. But you can do whatever works best for you. So I really feel like, I feel like the 9 covers me. So I have all of my colors, including browns, and so forth. but you know, whatever works best for you. I used to really just do a 3 or 4. So, okay, so here is our copper embossing over our thank you. Really pretty, right? Okay, but we're not done yet because we want this to really shine. So I'm gonna go back with my Azure Afternoon and my blue brush here. Let's make sure it's not too strong. And I am going to add some color to the background here. So we're gonna color the water blue. And what we're doing is resisting, because we have our embossing powder. The embossing powder will protect the cardstock, and it will wipe off from both the ink and the cardstock, or it'll wipe the ink off and keep that ink from getting into the cardstock and changing the color. So, all right. So I have a tissue, and I find that that's a really great thing to just burnish our pieces here. And so you can see some of the ink that comes off of the embossing powder. And then we have this just really gorgeous background, embossed, rainbow, ombre, like amazingness, right? Okay, but we're not done yet because we have to turn this into a card. So let us go ahead and do some trimming here. And I'm going to grab my paper trimmer and we're going to cut this down. I want this to be 5 and a little less than 1/4 inch. And I think that I can do that without removing our friends in New Zealand here. So we've got that. And then I'm going to trim the bottom of our cardstock and the top of our cardstock. Okay, let's see. Did we get this? I think we might have gotten it a little bit crooked, but we'll figure it out here. And the size doesn't really matter so much. I am going to give you a tip for finishing this. So what I want to do is I want this to really stand out on our card. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to mount this on a piece of basic black. Oh, look, I did get it pretty good. Okay, so I have this just barely bigger. It's basically like 1/8 of an inch, a scant 1/8 of an inch bigger than the layer that we've cut. And then we're going to mount this on a piece of cardstock. And I picked Summer Splash here, and it really kind of brings out this. Pulls these colors together, and so Summer Splash is a great fit for this, okay? So when you do embossing like this, especially multiple times, you're gonna find that your cardstock wants to bend. So what I'm gonna do is I usually am not very diligent about getting glue all the way to the edges of our card. I usually don't worry about it too much, but for this, I'm gonna make sure that it is. So I'm gonna put this down on our basic black here, get this layered in the center. And then because we all know from watching Makeup Mornings with Meg that green, the multi-purpose liquid glue doesn't grab instantly, I'm gonna go ahead and put my black on top of there for a moment. Because what we need is some accents here. We want to add some fun embellishments. And the thing that jumped out at me was the glimmer paper here that of course coordinates with our 2020, what year is this? 2024 to 2026 in colors. So we're gonna go ahead and grab the darker color. So I could have gone here with the Summer Splash to match our Summer Splash cardstock, but I actually really like the darker color here to just bring out that green tone. So we're gonna go ahead and use this, and my favorite Humble Home Builder Punch. So we're gonna go ahead and punch a couple of these hearts here. And conveniently, it's right there on the edge of the punch. So thank you, Stampin' Up! Engineers, for making this so perfect for us to be able to use as kind of a standalone heart punch. All right, so there is a set of those. Let's see, are we glued pretty well here? Yeah, I think so. All right, so we're gonna pop these green hearts on, and I'm gonna go ahead, rather than try to glue the back of the heart, which is very hard to handle, I'm gonna go ahead and add the glue to our card instead. And then, let's see, that was my heat tool. Rather than pick these little hearts up with my fingers, I'm gonna go ahead and pop them on here using my take your pick tool so that I don't have to try and grab them. And I kind of like this little bit of a jaunty angle here for these guys. All right. So there is our thank you panel here for the front of our card. I'm kind of loving the shininess of this. It's just really cool. It's one of those things when you send emboss cards or you share emboss cards with people, they're always like, wow, did you make that? Because the embossing looks really fancy. So now you can see that I didn't line these up entirely 100% accurately. There's a little bit of a shadow here, but honestly, it's really not going to be a big deal. So, all right. Okay, yeah, Sue says bling. Okay, we've got some bling. Now, let's talk about the card base. We're going to make this a little bit of an interesting fold. I could have just folded the cardstock in half, but instead what I did was I made this a trifold kind of card. And so we're going to have this flap come up from the bottom, and then we're going to have this flap come from the top. Some people call this like a gatefold because it's like an opening of a gate. But let me talk to you about how I measured for this. It was really simple. I just looked at the bottom. I'm like, I think 1.5 inches for the bottom flap. And I scored that. And then I measured across. The card base of a regular card is 4¼ inches. So I just measured from this score line 4¼ inches and scored again. So I don't even really have to measure, what this last flap is or anything like that. I just made sure that this section of the card here is 4¼ so that it fits in our envelope. And then this is going to go here on the front. Now on my original sample, I went ahead and glued that down, but I think I'm just gonna go ahead and use some dimensionals. Now, like I said earlier, I'm gonna go ahead and put more dimensionals on than I might normally. I know you guys are like, whoa, what are you doing, Meg? That's just crazy talk. That is a way high number of dimensionals for you. It's true, it's true. But I do want to make sure that I keep this card from warping as much as possible. So we're gonna pop this across here. And I made sure to keep those all so that they would fall on the front half here. Now you could do more embellishing of the front if you want to. You could add a ribbon, you could do all kinds of things, but then our card opens this direction. And we're gonna stamp for the inside of our card. So I have a basic white layer, and we're gonna go ahead and bring in the Unbounded Love stamp set because it has Makes the World a Better Place as one of its greetings. So we're gonna go ahead and do, you could really do any of these. Hope makes the world a better place, faith, peace, love, all of these things. And if you are thinking about sending cards to responders or rescue workers or people like that, Love Makes the World a Better Place is a pretty amazing sentiment to be sharing with people who are working with disaster recovery or making a difference in our hardest hit regions right now. So we're gonna go ahead and use 2 colors to really make that greeting stand out. And so I'm gonna go ahead and stamp the word love. All those electric linemen who are have traveled from all over the country to come and assist. There is a lot of love making the world a better place for people in really, really terrible situations right now. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead and attach this on the inside. I do feel like we need some extra embellishment. So one thing, actually you could do a couple things. So if I was gonna do this card over, before I cleaned my stamp, before I cleaned my world stamp, I would have gone ahead and stamped a stamp of the world on the background here. Okay, come on, glue. There we go. All right. I would have stamped the world on the back because after we'd stamped it for the front of our card, then there would still be enough ink left over to stamp it for the inside, and it would just be a light shadow. The other thing you can do is you can use Versamark for its watermark effect. This is a much more pronounced technique on colored cardstock than on white. So let's see how this goes here. We're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna stamp our world here on our white cardstock. And does it show? No. It does not show at all. Okay, well, anyway, it was a nice thought. If you do stamp this on colored cardstock, you can get a watermark effect, which is why Versamark is called watermark here. I hesitate to put embossing powder over that or anything because it's going to cover up all of our things. The embossing powder is opaque. But I could, if I wanted to, go ahead and color my world stamp again and stamp it there on the inside. But a really cool way to use these stamps, which are a really fun thing to get right now. Whenever the stamp sale happens, it happens once a year. Whenever the stamp sale does happen, I always think, oh, what are the stamps I should grab? And the stamps that are best to grab are ones that aren't included in bundles, because the stamp sale doesn't apply to bundles. So you'd be looking at stamps that were from past bundles, like Rustic Crate. This is a great time to grab that, which I shared last week. Let me see. Here's our card from Rustic Crate. This is the last Maker Mornings with Meg. And this stamp here can be used colored or just left uncolored. So this stamp, Rustic Crate, is included in the stamp sale. And the other possibility are stamps that aren't part of bundles and don't have dies associated with them. And so I put a couple of these in our list that are some of my favorites. One of them is Musical Jamboree. So this was a card that I shared this summer. My daughter was living in the backcountry very rustically, and so I made some cards for her and some of her friends using this fun Musical Jamboree stamp set here. So this one's included in the sale too. And then another similarly vain card, Let's Wander. So if you have soccer players or hikers, or honestly this work boot card, thanks for your help, which would be a really outstanding thing to be sharing with people who are working on recovery efforts right now. And so here's the card. I'm not sure water where the Wi-Fi is weak is the sentiment that they want to hear right now. But this card featured that stamp set. So this is another Maker Mornings with Meg. And if you're interested in seeing these cards and these video tutorials, the easiest way to find them is to go back to my LovenStamps.com blog and look on the blog there for the pictures of the cards. And then this last one is Flying By, which has this fun little alien, airplanes, some helicopters. Again, stamps that you could use to make some thank you cards for recovery efforts, or just sending cards of best wishes and hope and so forth. Maybe not the alien, the helicopter might be a little bit better. But this is another really outstanding stamp set that's included in the sale right now, Flying By. So, and this is another card from Maker Mornings with Meg. Trying to think what else I have here. This one. This is actually also from the Let's Wander stamp set. So this is a card that I'd shared at one point. This is this background here is something you could make with a watercolor effect, but this one's actually pre-made. It's from I can't remember the name of it, but it's from one of the Memories and More card kits, card packs, the one that is associated with this. And then The Sky is the Limit. That's the greeting that's already on there. So, all right. So lots of good possibilities. So I hope that wherever you guys are watching from, you are safe, and that watching some stamping videos maybe gives you something a little bit regular to be a distraction if you need a distraction. But please know that if you are preparing for hurricanes or you're recovering from hurricanes, that your stamping friends from all around the country are thinking of you and sending good thoughts your way. So remember, if you are wanting to take advantage of the annual stamp sale, it ends tomorrow. It ends Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. So you're going to want to take advantage of that. And like I said, the Watercolor World, those stamps that are like the big background stamps and the things that aren't bundled, those are great things to add to the stamp sale. So there's a link in the video description for all of the supplies that I used, and all of the stamp sets would be good choices. The only one that has a die set is Unbounded Love, but the greetings in this are so amazing that if you already have lots of little background ovals and greeting spots and stuff, then this is a great chance to just get the stamp set at a discount. So. And then finally, if you have to go back to the beginning to watch all the steps on our fun embossed card here, there you go. I was trying to get the shine to come through. It's not washing out. That's just the shine because we embossed the front of our card basically. So hope you guys have a good day, that you and your loved ones are staying safe. And I will be back on Thursday with another card for Maker Mornings with Meg. So happy stamping, everyone.